continuing on with talk about transgression, we were talking about from the parable of the sower, but also the disciples being astonished that it wasn't just the rich that were being saved and they didn't have a special place. And Peter's focus on stuff and on things and riches, and how this all comes from the enemy, because the enemy is a transgressor. Now, folks, every one of us deal with these things. It's just that we're never told we do. And every one of us have Christ, which we're going to be talking about, how he bore these things and took them from us. One of the lies, big lies that we believe is one of the big one that the enemy believes himself. I will be as the Most High. Now, translated into human terms, that is for, I think, everybody in the world, somewhere along the line has gone, God is not enough. God is not enough. It's a little phrase that packs a major punch. God is not enough is having another God, me, on the throne. It's creating images of things and the way that I like or want life to be. It's exalting my name, looking for false peace, rejecting the lineage that I have, using others to get what I want, willingness to break my word to obtain that, the dishonoring of the ownership of others, lying to get what I want, a restless heart. And what we just did was go through a paraphrase of the Ten Commandments, and all violated by this one thing, this fear of loss, idolatry, and covetousness. Now, I want to explain how it works. I want you to turn to James chapter 4 again. This is just a very important verse or passage. More than one verse I want to read, more than one. We'll start with James 4, verse 1, which says, "What is the source of quarrels and conflicts among you? Is not the source your pleasures that wage war in your members? You lust and do not have, so you commit murder. You are envious and cannot obtain, so you fight and quarrel." Now, let's first look. You lust and do not have. We talked about this the other day. You lust and do not have, so you commit murder. I mean, that's amazing. Just because I don't have something. No, notice it didn't say that I stole it from them, that I didn't take it from them. It's just that I lust and I don't have, so I'm angry. I want something a lot, but I don't have it, and I'm angry. You are envious and cannot obtain. I want something, can't get it, and so I fight and quarrel. You do not have because you do not ask, and you ask and do not receive because you ask with wrong motives, so you spend it on your own pleasures. Now, I want to go through, again, something we went through the other day, but James here is telling us, and I can tell you from my own life, what the pattern is. My idolatrous, lustful, I want more stuff, I want things to be the way I want it, see something I want. It belongs to someone else. Now I'm doing the thing that Scripture says is comparison. Comparing myself to others and that they've got it and I don't. For whatever reason, I can't have it. My heart's loyalty toward God and toward stuff is divided. I become double-minded. Because I become double-minded, as James says, my inner peace decreases. Now let me explain this again. I see something, and I'm envious of somebody else because they've got it. And because I want it, I'm focused on that. At the same time saying I'm focused on God, now I'm double-minded. I become unstable, as James says, in all my ways. My inner peace begins to decrease while my anger increases. And what's interesting, though, is my anger is not focused on the one that has the stuff or the one that has the perfect life, so I think. It's focused on the people that are around me. They're the closest ones, and that's where I will attack. I will look at them as they're the ones that I've got this problem. I see a neighborhood with big homes. I begin to meditate on those big homes. Boy, I wish I could be in one of those big homes. My home is now not good enough. I'm discontent, but my discontent is not going to be taken out on the owner of those homes. I'm not going to go up and knock on the door and say, I really hate you because you have a nice home. I have a guy one time tell me that he was angry at me because I had a good marriage. I pointed out to him that he could too, but he didn't want that. He wanted to be angry. My discontent is taken out on my family, on the people that I may work with, the people that are closer to me. I disguise my discontent. Y'all need to listen to this one. I disguise my discontent by saying, I want these other things so it'll be better for my family. We knew a guy that bought a new BMW, a two-seater. He had, at that time, 2 children and 1 wife. Oh, wait, they wouldn't fit there, would they? A two-seater. This is what he bought. Didn't have the money for it, but he bought it anyway. And his statement was, I bought this for my wife so that she and the kids would be safer. Now, I've got news for you. 3 kids or 3 family members are not going to sit into a two-seater. But this is what he said, told everybody so they would be safer. And, there's that other part of it. He drove the car. She didn't. And the kids weren't in it. I did this, I'm just trying to make wise decisions for my family. I mean, he literally would look you in the face while this two-seater Beamer is out here and tell you how wise and safe and what a good father and husband he was. And so we do the same thing. Oh, God, I have to laugh now. Something along the same lines, but done with a wee bit of sarcasm. There was a young man, he was here. He was young at the time. He's not young anymore. And I'm not going to tell you his name, but his initials were Josh Ordonio, and he was a student here. And Josh came up with a theory on why God needed to give him a Porsche 914, whatever it was back then. These things were fast. When you thought about going somewhere, you were already there. It's one of those things you didn't even have to turn the engine off. And he said, the reason for it is so that I can go do ministry quicker. When someone calls me up and they need me to counsel them, boom, I'm there. Hopefully, Josh will remember to bring his what is it, the implant that he had. Josh was completely deaf.
Cochlear.
What?
Cochlear.
Cochlear implant, because he was completely deaf. He learned to play the violin. It was amazing to watch. Anyway, he did this tongue-in-cheek. Obviously, you don't need a Porsche to do ministry. Maybe some people think they do. Josh was being pretty bad about that. Either way, we now have a righteous reason to covet people, and so I pray for this righteous home, and then I'm upset that God doesn't grant it. Oh, this one is a big one now. We have another pattern. As a dad or as a mom, I go somewhere to some conference, and I see a family that I go, I wish my kids were like that. Or you go to church and you see, I wish my kids were like that. Because their kids are perfect, so we think. And so I begin to meditate on those good kids, or maybe I should say rather well-trained, rather well-disciplined children. They're not necessarily good. They're just looking like they're good. And now everything that my kids do is measured by the standard of what I think I perceived in this other family. My discontent now is taken out on my family. I even pray to God that my family becomes like that other family. And God doesn't answer my prayer. My desire is what? To make me look good. You pray and you desire, but you pray with wrong motives, that you may spend it on your own pleasures. And this is what we do. And what is the deceitfulness of riches? It is that it's a lie. That's why it's called deceitfulness, that I will be satisfied with something other than God. Now, I've given you some stuff, but I want to stop just real quickly to let you think about that. Something we bring up here often, because you young people have the thoughts, the beliefs that's been crammed into you. Well, if I just get this job, or I just get this training, or go to college, and then I can get XYG job or whatever it is, and then I'll get married, and when I get married, I'll have kids, buy the house, and be content. And I'm sorry, folks, but I'm asking, how many really good marriages do you know? And if you were to talk to the people that don't have those really good marriages, that you would find out they're not content. And what they thought was going to be the answer to all their ills and all the things that went on with them, they thought it was this person. They find out it was not. When I ask this, I found that most can count the marriages that they know that are good marriages literally on one hand. And it's usually less than the 5. Now, you probably know of hundreds and hundreds of people that are married. Now, I will tell you, there's the ways that you can make your marriage to where it can bring contentment and it can bring satisfaction, but that's going to require you to make God first in your life. That's what happened with us. And when we did that, well, a whole lot of things that we wanted to line up that wouldn't line up finally lined up. Anyway, don't believe these lies that, well, if I just had something else, and that brings us to the desires for other things. Well, what other things? Well, so often, it can be stuff, but so often these other things are related to power, position, and the praise, the honoring from men. These reality shows that they have on television. I've never seen one, but they grab the camera and they follow somebody around in their family or in their day-to-day work. I mean, would you act natural with the camera pointed at you? I mean, there are things that Mrs. Davis and I talk about in private that the camera would never pick up. And so it's not a true way. The things that Mrs. Davis says are just... Was I not supposed to say that? Folks, we wouldn't be real. And guess what? Those people are not being real. They're putting on airs. They're putting on an act. You've got to act this way. You can't let people know really how disgusted you are with that other family member over there and Aunt George or Uncle Sally and all of that kind of stuff. You can't. You know, you got to put on the good face and be and anyway, these other things are so often related to power, position, being looked at. Social media is the same way, looked at for. I want people to like me. I want them to give a heart to what I just said. I didn't put that out there for you. Anyway, this is silly, but it's who we are. All this is related to one thing, that is lust. And I want to say that this is different than just the deceitfulness of riches. That one we believe a lie, but I'm going to tell you something. Again, as most of you know, I studied psychology for my bachelor's degree. And if there's one thing, and then I worked in a mental institution for the mentally retarded for a number of years. One of the things you find out in the actual scientific part of psychology, where it's not philosophical and false, spelled P-H-A-L-S-E, is that people will do almost anything for attention. If you don't believe it, again, I don't know anything about this, but you see it on the news. These kids that keep getting killed doing these TikTok challenges, is that what they are? Something like that. This is ignorance gone to seed. Just because I want somebody's attention and I want with this, but anyway, the kids are starving for attention, and this is the way they're going to get it. That desire, that lust, and the lust in the Greek, we talked about it the other day. One word, epithumio, epi meaning above, thumio being a passion or a rage beyond the things that are normal. This is not for just the things, the worries of the world and all this other stuff. This is about power. And you probably don't believe, you probably don't know how much you desire power. And you don't believe it. The enemy is behind this, and I'm going to explain it to you. And I bet you go, oh, that's me. One of the ways is that we express and that we can know that down in my heart, I really desire power, is what do I think on? What do I meditate on? Where do I let my imagination go? Am I the hero of the football game, even though I never play? Am I what do I watch? Superheroes? Why are those things so popular? Because you leave your extremely dull life and nobody knows who you are, and you go to a place where you, identifying with the hero, have all sorts of power. Video games is another one. Wow, I'm going through and I'm shooting this person, or I've got this power and I get that, and I can do these different things. Well, a big deal. It's not real. Folks, it's not real. We're willing, literally, to build up delusion and hallucination on a computer screen and say, that's me. That's me. And the point is not just attention. While it's part of it, it's also power. We would rather have somebody playing like they loved us, even though they don't, than not have it there at all. Playing like somebody really liked us for who we were. The Clark Kent, hidden and no one knows he's Superman, and what a brave soul, isn't it nice? And the lonely riding off into the sunset on the back of his flying horse. We see this in the Bible with Pharaoh's servants. What were they? These people were wizards. Isn't that the word that is in whatever that thing is? What's that? Harry Potter.
Yeah.
I remember it. We spend a lot of time in the evenings reading. Well, maybe we don't, but anyway, what's the big deal about that?
Power.
Wizard, power. Hey, I've got power. You're not going to stop me from doing it. Really, you don't have power. This, by the way, I think the big deal about these mass shootings. I'll tell you what the big deal is, and they won't tell you. They're not going to, because the business is a multi-billion-dollar, getting up to trillions of dollars of money being, pumped into through the economy. And it's people, not just kids, but people watching video games. You can say that that's not true, but it is. They're watching these things, and they're so real, it's no big deal to lower that gun and shoot somebody. It's no big deal to go to lower that gun and shoot a lot of people. And then they go, oh, I'll go be the hero in the game down at the local school or at a hospital or an office building for no reason at all, and just kill people, take people's lives, and gee, wasn't that fun? just because we want the charge out of having power over other people. It's astrology, again, magic, the occult, and it's also drugs and alcohol. Drugs and alcohol. The word for demonized in the Greek New Testament is pharmacia. Pharmacia. Do you catch it? Pharmacia, pharmacy, the drugs, and people were using them back then quite a bit. The lust for position and power is never satisfied. Why? Because you're not God. There's always going to be some level above you, always. And Satan's statement that he would be as the Most High came from his nature of pride. And this is why God wants us to pray for those in authority, that we would lead a quiet and peaceable life, not upset, not in rebellion, not wanting to be the person in power. Anyway, I'm thinking about myself. And let's turn again now to where we turned the other day. Turn to Genesis, please, chapter 3. Genesis chapter 3. Starting in verse 1. Now the serpent was more crafty than any beast of the field which the Lord God had made. He said to the woman, indeed, as God said, you shall not eat from any tree of the garden. The woman said to the serpent, from the fruit of the trees of the garden we may eat. From the fruit of the tree which is in the middle of the garden, God has said, you shall not eat from it or touch it. First place, this, of course, wasn't the truth. But why is she answering that question? Now, I'm telling you, this is a real failure, in my opinion, of Adam. I believe, personally, we're not told, but after she ate, she gave it to him. I think he was right there. And he had the authority, but he did not tell her, honey, you're wrong. Satan, you're out of here. And verse 4 of the same chapter, the serpent said to the woman, you shall surely not die, for God knows that in the day you eat, your eyes will be opened. You will be like God, knowing good and evil. Well, what's the point of this? God is hogging all the power. He's keeping it from you. Now, this is something that's amazing. Again, we've talked about what happens to people that are in transgression and they lose their place. People that are in rebellion lose their place. They really do. They lose their place of power, of influence, of even following the truth. The reason that socialism and communism doesn't work is because the people that tout it and go, everybody's going to be equal, remember they're the leaders, suddenly find themselves in a position of being unequal. They suddenly find themselves in a position of power over other people and the capacity to use that power and to get stuff and people and slaves and whatever they want, and they use it. Back when I was in the 60s and 70s and all the rebellion going along in the country, and some of it rightfully so, but in the rebellion that was going along, there was a statement that absolute authority corrupts absolutely. And it's really true. Absolute authority corrupts, and it does. Now, I want us to go into another aspect of this. Miss Davis, do you have something you want to bring up?
Yeah, just how it affects everything in our life. It's our flesh. I think our flesh is fallen. Jesus said, feed on my flesh. It says that he suffered death in his sarx, his flesh there. And that's the opposite is, like it says, do nothing. I've thought of this first before I thought, Do nothing out of selfish ambition or vainglory, but in humility of mind regard one another as more important than yourself. That is the flesh of Jesus Christ. That's not naturally who we are. It's I'm going to climb the ladder to get wherever. Everything around us says, do your best and you do this, that. But he said, I didn't come to be served, but to serve and give my life as a ransom. And I just think of, it's so opposite of who we are. The kingdom is so opposite. And it can't be that I can become that apart from the Lord. The Lord's Spirit working in me, conforming me to the very likeness of the Lamb of God is what God is after. The fall was they listened up under and became about them. Selfish ambition, vainglory was the what was from that point on the everyday of everybody's life. And just thinking of that is the fallenness of man. The verses in not First John, but John 5 that say, I do not receive glory from man, but I know you that you do not have the love of God in you. The opposite of the kingdom is receiving that, living for that. And the kingdom is the love of the Father being in us, his recognition greater than man's recognition, that I live for God's glory and for his will to be done in me rather than my glory and my will to be done, which is the world, the flesh, and the devil. It's all connected to the evil one. But just those thoughts on and what the kingdom is versus what the kingdom of darkness is.